For years, Puerto Rico has been dealt a bad hand. Crushing debt prompted the island to declare a form of bankruptcy in 2017, becoming the first state or U.S. territory to do so. With over $70 billion worth of bond debt and $50 billion worth of unfunded pensions, Puerto Rico eclipsed the record $18 billion bankruptcy record filed by Detroit in 2013. Since then, devastating hurricanes and earthquakes, a failed electric grid, and the pandemic have exacerbated the economic crisis of the island. But on Tuesday, a federal judge approved a plan to allow Puerto Rico to exit bankruptcy, striking the largest public sector debt restructuring deal in U.S. history. More than 80% of Puerto Rico's public debt will be reduced. According to the island's Finance Oversight Board, the plan also saves the Puerto Rican people $50 billion in debt repayments. What does this mean for Puerto Rico's future, and how did Puerto Rico, an island of just 3 million U.S. citizens, get here in the first place? Here to answer those questions is Julianne Malveaux, Dean of the College of Ethnic Studies at California State University at Los Angeles. So, Julianne, let's answer that first big question first. How did Puerto Rico get into such a bind?
You mentioned the Hurricane Maria. You mentioned the electrical grid. What you didn't mention, which needs to be mentioned, is the predatory capitalists who took advantage of those situations in Puerto Rico. People who didn't know anything about Puerto Rico going down and entering into contracts, and we won't let the politicians go blameless because they entered into the contracts, but entered into contracts to rebuild the grid when they didn't do it. They just built up debt. So Puerto Rico has never been, I mean, it's a state. Well, it's not a state, but it's part of the United States, and it's never been really treated that way. It's been treated as a billionaire's playground where people can go and extract surplus value from people. And we've seen it time and time again. So this plan is an interesting plan. On a scale of 1 to 10, it's a 6. It's not a 10 at all. And the people of Puerto Rico are going to be paying a long time for the errors that basically caused this situation.
Yeah, help our viewers to understand that. So if you are an individual, you file bankruptcy, your credit is destroyed for a while, you really can't buy anything take loans to buy anything, a house, a car, or whatever. What happens when a territory files bankruptcy and agrees to come out? What are the negatives for the territory of Puerto Rico?
Well, first of all, the United States Congress appointed an oversight board, very much like the board that was appointed to the District of Columbia when it had financial problems. So they appointed this board, and this board is now the representative of the government. The government has nothing to say about this. Elected officials have nothing to say. It's this oversight board. So they're going in and they're negotiating debt down. But the deal, Charles, it sounds like a good deal, but it's not necessarily a good deal. Puerto Rico is going to have to pay back about $1.15 billion a year, no matter what, from sales tax revenue. Now, that means, and we saw it happen in the District of Columbia, other things are going to have to be cut. Initially, people proposed cutting pensions. Well, that didn't happen. That's a blessing. But they're going to have to cut services, perhaps medical care. Any number of things can be cut because the obligation now is to pay this $1.15 billion back. The analogy you use is very good. If I go bankrupt, I can't pay anything back. I don't have any more money, y'all. And, the creditors can stand in line. They can do what they want, but you can't get blood from a stone. Here we have creditors getting blood from a stone, and the stone is the people of Puerto Rico. The worst thing, the most challenging thing, of course, is the electrical grid. They went a half a year without any electricity in the wake of that hurricane. So basically, the consequences are to the people of Puerto Rico who are going to have to pay taxes. They're counting on sales tax revenue to pay this money back. And if the sales tax revenue does not come through, the people will have consequences because this out of control board, I call them out of control board, because they're not paying attention to the people. We don't know what's going to happen with education. We don't know what's going to happen with their university, but all these things have been negotiated. It's a 38-page bankruptcy. I tried to read part of it, gave me a headache. But basically, what gives me the bigger headache is the terms and conditions of life for the people in Puerto Rico, many of whom are poor. The poverty rate there is extraordinarily high. And it will get higher
Yeah,
if
I was
things
just
don't.
going to bring that up because I'm just going to bring up the poverty rate because I was listening to you talk about how they may have to cut services if they don't make enough money. They have to pay it anyway, so they have to take it from somewhere. They may have to cut services to these people who are already poor. The poverty rate in Puerto Rico is twice that of the poverty rate in Mississippi, which is one of the poorest states in America. Would America watch as these people suffered just to make sure they make this payment, or is there any other thing that the country can or would do to help out the people of Puerto Rico?
Well, Congress can certainly bail them out. That oversight board could certainly change the terms. But we have watched Puerto Rico suffer for a very long time. I'm sure you remember the specter of your former president. I'm going to let you have him. Your former president throwing paper towels and toilet paper at the people in Puerto Rico when he went down to look at the hurricane damage. We have treated Puerto Rico poorly. And as a result, people, just in terms of trying to meet basic needs, have amassed this debt. 53% of the debt there, or 53% of the public funds can go to debt. Now they're trying to restructure some of that, but that's scary. I mean, that's really scary. So if we believe that these are United States people, these are Americans, Mitch McConnell, these are Americans. And if these are Americans, then Congress and others need to step in and pull back. One of the other things, Charles, that's interesting to note is that lawyers are making billions off this bankruptcy. A law firm in New York charging $1,300 an hour. At a hearing where only 2 lawyers spoke, they flew down 12 of them and put them in hotels and did all that. So this has become, as I said, predatory capitalism. This has become a way for rich, excuse my language, white folks to extract money from the poor people of Puerto Rico, and Congress really ought to intervene. This judge behaves like she's a heroine. She's not. She may have shown some compassion, but she really hasn't shown enough.
So a big part of how Puerto Rico makes its money is tourism, and we have a pandemic. Like I'm just worried about how do they plan to generate this money?
Well, again, there is no plan. They're saying they want to rebuild their economy. So rebuilding their economy, if much of their economy was tourism, requires attracting more tourists. But that's not necessarily going to happen. The other thing that's happened in Puerto Rico is that there has been an enormous population drain. People have left because they can't find jobs, because they don't have homes. In the wake of that hurricane, you saw millions of people flocking to Florida, which also created some challenges for Florida. But basically, the rebuild the economy, that's like, telling a 400-pound person, lose 200 pounds. I mean, there got to be a plan. And there has not been a plan to rebuild the economy.
Dr. Julianne Malveaux, the person in charge of my diet and weight loss. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I appreciate your time.